Welcome, everyone, to Season 5, Episode 23 of the Hall of Fame Show. And I'm Kirk Buchner along with Evan Nolan. Who are we? We're the guys who run NotInHallOfFame.com, the Fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame. We're going to do more of that later. The Fictitious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We'll do more of that later. And the reason why we're doing more of that later is because we put a lot of effort into the United States Athletics Hall of Fame, which right after you're done watching this show, you're going to go to www.theusahof.com and you're going to cast your vote on who you think should be part of the second class of the United States Athletics Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we're going through December 1st on the vote. We were going to do November 1st, but we realized we were rushing stuff. We'll go back to November 1st in years to come. But we got a lot done in the off season this year. And it put us behind other things. Like I said, this is a two-man operation at the front. We have other folks who are helping us at different parts. But we were about 3 months behind where I needed to be. We caught up a lot, but not all the way. I'm still putting out videos. I saw today my videos I put out last year at this time were videos 68, 69, and 70. And today I put up numbers 19 and 20, just to give you an idea as to where we are. But yeah, we have 129 athletes. We have 95 contributors and 95 coaches, correct?
Correct.
And you can vote for 10 of the coaches, 10 of the contributors, 25 of the athletes. Top 25 athletes we have will get into the hall this year. The other ones will continue on, and we'll have more voting and see who joins in the next year. So
sounds like a plan. And yeah, I mean, if the Rock Hall can change can just drop things at any given time, well, we can do this because at least we're telling you everything we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, we are going to try and be the most transparent hall of all time. You want to know how votes went? I'll tell you how votes went. We tell you the actual order people finished. Yeah, we'll give you all that information. So we'll try to do this best we can. And like I said, Kirk, I've said this to Kirk multiple times. I kind of feel like we're in year 2 of 5. That like 3 years from now, this is going to be a real big thing. Now we are building it.
We are, and if you build it, they will come. We're doing a show, even though there's not a lot of Hall of Fame related news, but we're actually just sticking with, sadly, we lost a lot of people this week. And I'm off to Germany next week, and Germany and the Netherlands. Excuse me. So I wouldn't be able to record next week. So unless there's something big dropping, then maybe Evan might record something, and we'll sort of take it from there. I don't know.
But it seems like it's been a celebrity apocalypse, particularly for people who we deal with in our situation here. Honestly, it started. We recorded on Thursday last week,
right?
And since then, it's just been death.
Probably
kind of crazy.
The most in terms of importance in the last 6 days, maybe since we started doing this a few years ago. I would say.
Yeah, I would say just in terms of, I mean, we've had more famous people die, like and greater athletes and everything in their sports, but no one. We'll leave him for the end, but no one who has caused as much debate over the last 25 to 30 years about in Hall of Fames.
And without whom you and I may never have met.
That is true. And someone who you have actually interviewed.
Yes. So, yes. But I guess we'll just start. I'll turn that over to you, and you can tell us those we lost.
So I'm going to start small. Or smaller and build my way up. No offense to the folks who I'm mentioning. But
the Oscars do it. You can too.
I can do it too. I was going to say that end of year reel is getting a little bit crazier now. But one person who a lot of people who like reality TV, Frank Fritz from American Pickers, passed away at the age of 60. I had a whole bunch of people who I know who are very sad about that when he passed. Also passing, Robert Watts, the film producer of Star Wars and Indiana Jones, among others.
Okay.
Also did worked with You Only Live Twice, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, An American Tail, Bible Goes West. So a whole bunch of different things like that. Papillon, El Condor, Alive, On Deadly Ground, stuff like that. So he was involved in a lot of movies.
I remember seeing Alive afterwards. I was so hungry I could eat Nando. Sorry.
Well done.
Thank you.
Okay. from music, we have a whole bunch of real important people. Well, like I said, we'll come at the end. But from music, Kenneth Wayne Tobias wrote "Stay a While," which was the #1 song for the Bells back in 1971. He passed away at the age of 79. From the band The Brotherhood of Man,
Hmm.
Martin Lee, singer of the group, best known for their hit in 1976, "Save Your Kisses for Me," which won the Eurovision Song Contest. He passed away at the age of 77. From the band Anvil,
Oh,
David Allison passed away,
oh,
who was uh, the rhythm guitar backing vocals back from the original first time full-time lineup back in 78. So the original band was Lips Cudlow, Rob Watubi's Reiner, Dave Squirrely Allison, and Ian Dix Dixon. So those were the original band when they were called Lips. But Dave Allison passed away at the age of 60, obviously 68.
I got a story about Anvil.
Please.
Yeah. So they're a Canadian band based in Toronto. When I got divorced from my first wife, we were sort of amicable a little bit. Not really. If you're watching, I have no money for you. Even if I did, I have nothing for you. Nothing. Nothing. Anyway,
All right, move on. Keep going.
sorry. I help her move into her place because I'm a nice guy. And the guy who's sort of there, who's sort of the landlord, but it turns out it wasn't the landlord, it was the brother of the landlord, is this dirty looking hippie guy in an Anvil t shirt. Turns out it was Lips.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So it's the lead singer of Anvil. And if you ever watched the Anvil documentary,
I did. When I had never heard of Anvil when that documentary came
yeah,
out, I remember going to the movie theater and they had like the cardboard cutout. And I just thought it was like a rock mockumentary, like
yeah.
this is Spinal Tap originally.
Mhm.
And then I watched. I'm like, oh no, these are real people. Went in watch it, thinking it was a mockumentary.
Yeah. Well, I didn't realize that he wasn't the landlord until that documentary.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he's actually the second member of Anvil to die. So Sebastian Marino was a guitar player who replaced Squirrely Allison,
Hmm.
and he passed away last year. So we're now down two of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people who played in the band. So, but Lips and Robbo are still around.
And
So
they're going to make it finally.
uh, you never know.
You never know.
So, all right. From baseball, not the big one we're going to talk about, but Ozzie Virgil Sr.
Hmm.
Uh, passed away at the age of 92. Played for the Giants, Tigers, Athletics, Orioles, Pirates, and Giants again from 56 through 69.
I
He
remember
started
his
his career.
son,
Yep. Started his career with the New York Giants, ended his career with the San Francisco Giants.
hmm.
So played every position on the diamond in his career except for pitcher and center field. So his son, Ozzie Virgil Jr., was a two-time All-Star, played 11 seasons. And they actually played together in the 1985 All-Star game. So,
Oh,
but there's also a airport named for him in the Dominican Republic, believe it or not, Ozzie Virgil Sr.
sorry. Winnie's
So,
got a lot to say. This is Winnie. If you're watching, this is Winnie the Mini Dashin, who has
mhm.
decided to make her presence noted. She doesn't
Mini
always.
da- Mini Daxon, huge personality, that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so just a few others to get to. First of all, I can say John Ashton passed
Mhm.
away. Best known, honestly, as Taggart from the Beverly Hill Cops films, or as I had to describe him to my wife, Axel Foley's buddy who wasn't Judge Reinhold. I also loved him in Midnight Run back in the day. You ever seen Midnight Run?
I've never seen it.
Uh, Midnight Run's worthwhile. It's one of those things you need to see. Or if you don't have anything to go on to watch one night, just watch Night Run. I enjoy that one. Also in Breaking Away,
Yeah, what was he
Curly
in
Sue,
Breaking
Little
Away? I don't
Italy.
remember it. What was he in that?
He was Roy, the older brother of Mike. Uh,
Oh,
I don't know.
okay.
Gone Baby Gone. Uh, he was in what was the other one I was thinking of? She's having a baby, some kind of wonderful. Um, Money Hunt, The Mystery of the Missing Link.
Hmm.
Yeah, so he was working all the way through. I mean, he was in the Beverly Hills Cop movie that came out earlier this year, right?
Yes, he was.
He's also in Columbo, in my favorite Columbo episode of all time. He's not the murderer. It's the one where
Wow.
Dick Van Dyke, the one where Dick Van Dyke is the murderer. But I remember watching it. I was telling my wife about it and remember watching. I'm like, wait a second, that's Taggart with hair. So, but he was also in tons of other television shows: Barnaby Jones, MASH, Starsky and Hutch, Dallas, um, Twilight Zone, like all sorts of things. King of the Hill, he was in an episode of. But yeah, he passed away at the age of 76.
What do you want to go down?
Big one for me, who you had not heard of, Ken Page passed away at the age of 70. One of the best voices of all time. Uh, he was in the original Broadway production of The Wiz as the Lion, um, but I would say the best way I would go through him. He's also, by the way, the old Deuteronomy in the original Broadway version of Cats, and Ken in the original Broadway production of Ain't Misbehavin'. But I think of him most as the voice of Oogie Boogie from The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is a film you haven't seen and
I haven't
should.
seen that one either. No.
That's a very enjoyable film. You don't need to have kids for that one. It's kind of weird. Um, but he's the voice of Oogie Boogie, and he was performing until not that long ago because he did a whole thing up on stage live a couple years ago. But he died in his sleep at
Hmm.
the age of 70.
That's the way to go.
So yeah, he was also in the Dream Girls movie.
Oh, wait,
He was
where are
in
you playing
Cat.
that?
He was Max Washington in that one. But honestly, he was also King Gator and All Dogs Go to Heaven, if you remember that movie.
I do.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would someone who big loss to me because his voice was absolutely great. All the like almost all the really great deep bass voice African American actors have died in the last 3 years.
Well,
That's crazy. James Earl Jones, Andre Brower, Lance Riddick,
oh, yeah.
Ken Page, and another one I'm gonna bring up right now, John Amos, passed away
Hmm.
at the age of 84. He actually died back in August, but we just found out about it earlier this
Yeah,
week.
how did that happen?
I don't know. Um, but I honestly think about the scene he had with James Earl Jones in Coming to America, where James Earl Jones tries to buy him off with $1 million and then $2 million.
Mhm.
And he said, "You can't buy me off. This is America, Jack. You say one more thing about my daughter, I'm going to stick my boots so far up your royal ass." And James Earl Jones is going, "Pardon me?" Like
uh,
it's
I guess
just
obviously,
a fantastic, fantastic film. But I
yeah,
mean, he was good in everything he was ever in.
absolutely. I wonder how Good Times would have been had him and Esther Roll really had their vision because it pretty
Mm.
much steered away from them. That's basically the reason he got killed off
Mm-hmm.
was allegedly. I think I watched this on one of those foundation interviews. I think I got that right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where more or less he made threats to the writers, or made or for the way he described it. Who knows how it really went down? But long story short, both him and Esther Roll, who played Florida, were very upset that the whole show sort of devolved, in their opinion, to basically Jimmy Walker being a clown.
Yeah. So I'm reading it right now. He clashed openly with the writers of the show. Um, they put there was too much emphasis on Jimmy Walker's character and not enough on the other two children, and also that JJ was stereotypical buffoon. That led to Norman Lear dismissing him in '76.
Well,
He
they
said
worked
that
again together.
what?
They would work again together, and
Yeah,
in I guess you can't call it a spin-off, but John Amos played the father of the person of the family who bought Archie Bunker's old house.
704 Hauser.
Yes.
Yeah, but he also he said he told the writers that they did not understand African Americans. That just doesn't happen in the community. We don't think that way. We don't act that way. We don't let our children do that. So they killed them off, and that led to that famous damn, damn, damn break into the vase
Yeah.
thing.
Which was trending on X.
It was.
Yeah.
But of course, I mean, one of the next big things was he was growing up Kunta Kinte on Roots,
Mm-hmm.
which was very, very important. And I also, the other thing I think of him, he was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the West Wing for a very, very long time. There was, I remember, I used to watch the West Wing or anything, but the scene I'm remembering with him from that is they were going to discuss gays in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And he's Joint Chiefs. He asked them that generals, then they're going to talk to the president about it. And they're like, you don't have a problem with them, but you just want to serve with them, right? And he's like, yeah, that's bad for morale. He goes, I understand what you're saying. We have to understand 25 years ago, the color of my skin was bad for morale. And just, it was the way he put it was kind of amazing. But I mean, he was in so many things.
I realized actually today that he's somebody who I forgot about for the fictitious athlete nominations because
Which one?
he was a sportscaster in Mary Tyler Moore. Gordy, I forget the last name of the character.
He was also apparently Coach Sam Archer in The World's Greatest Athlete from 1973. I forgot. Oh, I forgot. One of my wife's favorite movies. It's so bad. You ever seen The Beastmaster?
Beastmaster, yeah, I saw that with Mark Singer.
Yeah, he's Seth. He's Seth in The Beastmaster. That came up when I saw him too. And of course, Major Grant, the secondary bad guy in Die Hard 2.
I didn't even put this together. So I mean, like they really were doing a Conan ripoff because James Earl Jones was in that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Oh, I
but
never
no.
thought of that until now.
Yeah, did you ever see Die Hard 2?
Yes.
Yeah, Die Hard 2 is one of the more confusing. Like all the bad guys have like intricate plots, but that one was one of the more interesting ones because like he controlled the group of people who were shooting guns that had no bullets. They're all blanks just to distract everybody. It seemed like a very dangerous part of the plan. But yeah, just a great, great actor. And I enjoyed him in basically everything he ever did.
He was a great
So
actor and he didn't make bad choices.
that is also true. But yeah, he passed away at the age of 84. Believe it or not, we had four names bigger than him who passed away. I'll stick with acting. Maggie Smith passed away at the age of 89. She won two Academy Awards, five BAFTAs, four Emmys, three Golden Globes, and a Tony, as well as six Olivier Awards. She's one of the few performers who has the Triple Crown of acting, which is Academy Award, Emmy, and Tony in the acting category.
Must have a ton of BAFTAs too, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, right. Of course, have you ever seen the Prime of Miss Jean Brodie?
Many moons ago.
Yeah, I watched it a long, long time ago too. I want to watch it again because there were some scenes up from that were amazing. The movie I always think of her first from because I am a little bit of an Agatha Christie nerd is her role in Death in the Nile, where she's the assistant to Betty Davis, and the two of them are just tormenting each other the entire film, and it's lovely. But of course, everyone else probably thinks of her sister act, Hook, or the Harry Potter stuff, if nothing else. Mm-hmm. But just a great, great actress. 89 years old. Basically now, I mean, Dumbledore's gone, Snape's gone, McGonagall's gone, Hagrid's gone. Pretty much the most important adults in those films are all gone at this point, 20 years out. So anyway, yeah. All right. So next one, also sort of an actor, but probably better known as a musician, and somebody who I think was probably on the radar of the Rock Hall at this point, based off of who they've been letting in. Chris Christopherson passed away at the age of 88. A true American original, Chris Christopherson.
Mm-hmm.
He, Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, and Merle Haggard are the leaders of outlaw country, the real country music.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Not this, she thinks my tractor's sexy. um, and I'm not leaving out people like Charlie Pride. Charlie Pride was just more the gospel side of things, right? Charlie Pride, George Jones, people like that. They weren't the people who had the gravitas to sing, you know, Ghost Riders in the Sky, or any of those type of sort of, I hate modern westerns in country music sort of songs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say one of the things that I can think of most of all is what he did when Sinead O'Connor ripped up the picture of the Pope.
Mm-hmm. It was a day
And
after.
he got up. What?
I think it was the day after.
Was it the day? Well, yeah, it was the day after. She was supposed to be booed off stage and everything else. Christoph's went up there and it's like, just refused to do it.
Yeah.
To put her off. But he
embraced her because she broke down. Because yeah, I think they were at MSG.
They may have been.
Yeah, like I forget for what purpose, but it was like an all-star tribute to somebody. I don't recall whom, but yeah, that was one of the first things I thought. The second thing I thought of was a shitty film that I really liked is a guilty pleasure, Convoy.
Oh yeah. So it was Bob Dylan's anniversary concert right after her
Okay, yeah.
protest. So
yeah, he was in a lot of things too. Uh, he was in Blade, where he was just great at
he
that.
won a gold. He won a Golden Globe for his work in A Star Is Born.
Semi tough.
Yep, semi tough. Well, let me get his filmography here. He had 20 albums, 24 albums.
Mm-hmm. Wrote a ton of hits for a lot of other people that became hits for a lot of other people.
Sunday Morning Coming Down is one of my favorites of all time. He also wrote Me and Bobby McGee.
Wait, I forgot that.
Which is you don't think of his version. It's like Neil Diamond's version of Red Red Wine. It's not the first one that comes to mind. Yeah, he's just in everything. I mean, he was even in Snow Buddies. So there you go. Mm-hmm. But
one of those guys who, he didn't have that imposing physique, but he looked tough as shit.
And he was tough as shit. That's the other thing too. The whole story of him and Toby Keith. Toby Keith telling him not to do any of that liberal shit up on stage at Willie Nelson's 70th birthday celebration. And Christoph.
I don't know the story. What happened?
So it's the 70th birthday celebration for Willie Nelson, and Toby Keith is going out there, and he just had his, stick my boot up your butt thing going on for courtesy of the red, white, and blue. And he goes up and he says, "Happy birthday, Willie." And basically Christoph told him to shut the hell up. He's like, "What? I don't want any of that political stuff." And he says, "You know what your problem is? It's like you sing about all this stuff, but did you ever wear the uniform and then have to kill someone and cash your check for killing them?" And he said, "What?" He says, "You heard me. You just don't like the answer." He's like, "You're such a fake whatever and whatever." Keith's like, "Yeah, whatever," and went off. And then he said, so this was in presence of Willie Nelson and a reporter. And he turned, after Keith had wandered off, he turned to a reporter. He says, "You know what Waylon Jennings says about guys like him? He's like, they're doing to country music what pantyhose did to finger fucking."
I gotta use it. I got to. I don't know how and where, but I'm going to use that.
Yeah, you just got to go find the whole story. The whole thing is
No,
great. And I read
that's
it.
what I'm
I read
doing.
it like it came up around. I read that thing 15 years ago. I think it's part of this when I was getting in trying to figure out what country music stars and everything. And like I said, they just put in Dolly Parton. Johnny Cash is already in. Willie Nelson just got in. Christopherson, Waylon Jennings is in already, right?
No,
No. All right. So Waylon Jennings, Christopherson, and folks like that were people on. There's somebody else country who I can't think of. I'm confusing. Um, but it wouldn't have shocked me if Christopherson
it's like
got in that.
Willie. It's pretty much just. Isn't it just like Hank Williams, Willie,
Hank
and
Williams. It was I thinking Hank Williams. I'm having thinking Hank Williams. But anyway, he passed away at the age of 88. The next one, Dikembe Mutombo. Sorry, Dikembe Mutombo Mapolando Mukama Jean Jacques Mutombo. As I used to have a friend who had a T-shirt that had his whole name on it, in like the African style red, yellow, and green letters. This was very 1991 ish.
Mhm.
But he passed away at the age of only 58 of brain cancer. Mount Mutombo, he was one of those guys who was incredible, but somehow traveled around the league quite a bit. I mean, the first thing you think of him always is for me, is as a member of the Nuggets as the 8 seed, becoming the first 8 seed to beat a 1 seed when they defeated the Seattle Supersonics, and him on the ground just screaming his lungs out towards the sky.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I remember
but
more
it's
with
also
Atlanta, but yeah,
right. You remember more what?
with Atlanta, his second team.
Yeah, as you say, and those Atlanta teams. He was with the Sixers, the Nets, and Knicks. He was with the Rockets for quite a long time
Yeah,
at the end. Um, 8-time All Star, once All NBA second team, twice NBA third team, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, 3 times All Defensive First Team, 3 times All Defensive Second Team. It's kind of crazy. He was Defensive Player of the Year in 1995, but only made the second team on the defensive side. I'm confused how that one happened. Um, uh, a 2-time rebounding leader, 3 times blocks leader. If you play Clarence Weatherspoon every night, he'd be the 75th 5-time blocks leader. And so they kept getting replayed. Weatherspoon goes up, he blocks him. The ball bounces around, comes back to Weatherspoon, he blocks him. Comes back under Weatherspoon, he blocks him again and gives him the no, 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 no. But yeah, was retired by both the Hawks and the Nuggets. 2-time Big East Player of the Year at Georgetown, 4th pick of the 91 draft.
he didn't even want to be a ball player. He wanted to be a doctor.
He did.
Yeah,
And he did so much after his career.
yeah.
And he's one of the people who went to Georgetown and actually graduated. So he graduated Georgetown with a bachelor's degree in linguistics and diplomacy. He actually had a summer intern for Congress and once for the World Bank. So this wasn't like just your normal typical
too.
jock.
Yeah, and just like an all-around good guy. When he passed, and I didn't have as much time to digest it as I'd like because of who we're going to get to after. Because unfortunately, this happened on the same day. But like the first thing I did was look up that insurance. I forget what insurance company it is. They all blend together. But it was like, how much does he like? How much does such as us like saving money? As much as Dikembe likes blocking things. No, no, no. And he's just blocking cereal.
Yeah.
Out of
that was Geico. I'm pretty sure that was Geico commercial.
I couldn't tell you, but probably.
Yeah. Just by the way, think about how different basketball is now. But because he was on that Georgetown team, it was Georgetown's starting forward and center were Dikembe Mutombo and Alonzo Mourning. How did anybody get a shot off against that team?
No, that's crazy. It's like back when men's college hoops were, well, they kind of mattered a lot more than they do now, unfortunately.
Well, I have a rant at some point about people complaining about NIL money while the conferences are ripping themselves apart. But I just want to point out Boston College doing much better in football this year than they have in a long time, although they barely beat Western Kentucky this past weekend. but they have a conference home rivalry game at SMU this year. Boston College and Southern Methodist are conference rivals now.
Hey, I live in the home of the Washington Huskies, who are in the Big Ten.
Yeah, don't the Huskies have a game against Rutgers this year? A conference game against
Uh,
Rutgers?
that I don't know. I'm not that familiar with their schedule.
I'm pretty sure they do because they got Washington, Oregon, UCLA, and USC
Mhm.
moved over, and I'm pretty sure that Rutgers and Washington play a conference game.
No, I'm sure it's a long-standing rivalry game that people have been waiting for on both coasts.
I mean, it was started being weird for me when BC was playing Clemson. Like, and I finally got used to that. But
Mhm.
like, it's just dumb. And the players getting paid is not what's ripping the sports apart. The conferences doing what they're doing is ripping the sports apart. Because the
Yeah.
big thing about college sports was the rivalry with the same people for hundreds of years. When's the last time like Kansas and Missouri played each other all the freaking time? And it was a big deal. Like they're never going to play again for anything that matters. Just dumb.
I think
I'm sorry.
some they're keeping. I know
Rant.
the
That would be my smorgasbord.
Yeah, the smorgasbord of shit. Why am I being PC? I don't know. But yeah, back to Mutombo. I mean, like also he was not just giving back to Africa,
Mm-hmm.
but like to his homeland, but to just like everywhere he touched. So
Yeah.
he was a heart bigger than him, which
Mm-hmm.
is outstanding. I don't think there's going to be anyone could find one negative story about Dikembe. I don't think anyone would even want to search for a negative story about him.
No.
There's nothing bad to say about the guy.
There was a story that a reporter had on that she was late for a flight and they were about to close the gate. And all of a sudden behind her, she hears a voice go, "No, no, no." And the gate agent looked up and she's like, the gate agent looked up like she'd either seen a ghost, an
Mhm.
angel, or Dikembe Mutombo. I turned around and it was Dikembe Mutombo. But yeah, I mean, an absolutely larger than life figure, somebody who, even if he wasn't on your team, you enjoyed watching him play.
Yeah.
He actually retired with 1,000 more rebounds than he had points in his career,
Still
which
second in blocks all time,
still second as blocks all time, averaged almost 3 a game for his entire career.
which is insane.
Yeah. He had a game in college, he had 12 blocks
I
in a
read
game.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, yeah, he passed away at only the age of 58, which sucks.
Sometimes proof that sometimes the good get taken away too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Because he probably had a lot more left to give to a lot of people.
That is true.
And sadly,
That brings us to unfortunately, the man of the website.
yeah. I just did the elevator show with Chris, and I told a bit of some stories there. So obviously we're talking about Pete Rose now, and so I'm going to kind of repeat myself. So sorry if you watched that one and then this one. Pete Rose was my first favorite baseball player, and I think for a lot of people growing up and people older than me, because I first knew him as a Philly, not as a Red.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of my
Not,
age.
not as an expo.
Not as an Expo. I had somewhere his Pete Rose Expos card somewhere, but Pete Rose was one of those guys that a lot of people got attracted to, mainly because this was one of those guys in any sport. Whenever you paid to see him play or whenever you watched him play, you knew he was giving you everything he had.
Mm-hmm.
And even in an era back then when they weren't as selfish as a lot of players are now, it was still one speed, go as fast as you can. He made the most out of not being the most natural athlete at all, because he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Learned the art of hitting, and what what he did on the field was sort of the way he lived his life off of it too. Unfortunately, uh, again, one speed, go go go. It's a complicated legacy. You can't not talk about Pete Rose without talking about a lot of the things that sort of kept him out of the hall. It's impossible to do that.
Right.
Pete was an avid gambler. I got to read the book that was just done on him, and a lot of things I didn't know, that he was pretty much into gambling way before, and more often than not wasn't winning.
Mm.
His also his affinity for women too was well known, and unfortunately one was underage, as we came to learn later, but
Mm.
that's a story maybe for another day. Rose, I argued yesterday that in a weird way, he's an elevator up, because the biggest enemy of Pete Rose is Pete Rose.
Mm-hmm.
He's not around to say things he shouldn't say anymore,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. But for me personally, I did get to interview him, and that is one of my few, and was my first in-person interview. And it was, I had a little bit of balls in Vegas because he was doing his signings in between, I want to say the Excalibur and Luxor, or in that area. And there he was. And then I went up to this person who was sort of like soliciting people to, get his autograph. I asked him, would I be able to do an interview instead? And he allowed me to do that. And he was amazing to me for an hour talking to me. And he sure as hell didn't have to. Who the hell was I? The site
Mm-hmm.
was only a few pages at that point. But he was gracious. He answered everything openly and honestly. He gave me his time. And my favorite moment of this, and again, I'm repeating this from yesterday, was watching him get all giddy like a kid when he's on his smartphone looking at baseball scores, and Jeter just set some kind of record, or he hit a milestone. I wish I could remember what it was. I could probably go back and figure it out. But his love of baseball never died,
Mm-hmm.
even though baseball.
Even when baseball didn't really love him.
Exactly, exactly. He was
But
kind
I
of
think
my,
saw a quote that he's like, I'd walk through the fires of hell if I got to play one more baseball
yeah. He was kind to my wife, who had no idea who he was. Uh, and my memories of that will always be good. I saw him again 5 years later, and I got to say thank you. You pretty much established my website and made it something. You gave it legitimacy. He didn't
game.
remember who I was.
Of course, why would he? He's how many interviews has he done?
Right now, exactly. So, but still, I mean, it meant a lot to me that I got to sort of like say thank you.
Yeah, makes sense.
And for me, it's in a weird way, it's the end of an era too. My childhood hero is gone. The guy who replaced him, Tony Gwynn, is gone. My
Mm.
parents are gone. A few years ago, one of the most important musicians in my life, Bowie's gone.
Mm.
Feeling pretty damn old today.
Oh, I know. Today's actually the anniversary of I know because I posted about it, the death of Tom Petty. On my wall just over there, I from my wedding with the lyrics to the song Wildflowers by Petty
Well,
around it, which is our song from our first dance. First dance my wife and I had was Wildflowers by Tom Petty. Um, and it's just like because that's October 2nd, he passed away. October 2nd, 7.5 years after, so 2017. Um, and it's just like every time it comes up, I'm like, oh man, there's like so many big important people in your life. The more ghosts you know is kind of what it comes down to. Um, am I?
yeah. So
Yes.
obviously
Sorry,
on
I'm
the
back.
field, no, it's all good. Obviously on the field, I mean, we've got a guy who did everything you need to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He has
Mm-hmm.
what used to be an untouchable record with career hits, especially the way
Mm-hmm.
the game has evolved in terms of what players more embracing walks than ever before.
He did not like the implication that Ichiro had more hits than he did because of the
Did
stuff he was.
not, but he was also right in the fact that hitting over there was a lesser.
Just ask Tuffy Rhodes.
Warren Cromartie comes to mind.
Tuffy Rhodes hit 56 home runs over there one season.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was that many. But
Yeah, it may not have been 56. It was like 50 something. And he may not have hit that in half a decade in the MLB.
okay.
So,
But no, and I would agree with Pete on that one. It's sort of a shame that there's that Ichiro couldn't have sort of like tested his metal right away. And
mm-hmm.
MLB, I'm sure he would have liked to, or maybe I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I don't know. I don't know what a lot of them sort of grew up thinking and how they think for that. But had everything, lost everything. It was all his fault, and he'll tell you it was his fault.
Mm-hmm.
But told me it was his fault.
Well, his big problem was, unlike Jordan, they didn't have another sport they could send him to cover up the gambling stuff. So,
Yeah.
but no, so I had actually done. Pete Rose is one of the 20 videos that have been out so far for our Hall of Fame this year.
Mm.
He last year, where did he finish last year?
I'm not sure.
He finished 50. He finished 51st
Okay.
last year
130.
out of 100. So yeah, out of 130. So he finished 51st, right between Sandy Koufax and Jimmy Connors. Jimmy Connors and Pete Rose actually probably have a lot of personality in common, to be honest. But so his video, his was the 13th I wrote,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought of doing his video 13th, but I decided not to. I changed stuff up again because I didn't want to have somehow jinx him with doing number 13 on him. And then he passed away like 8 days after that got published.
So yeah, it's
like
crazy.
sorry, some of the stories about him. He was real small, and but it was super confident himself at all times. So in high school, he played football and baseball, right? And he was a running back on the JV team his freshman year, and he thought he'd get promoted to varsity his sophomore year and didn't. And so therefore just basically stopped doing any schoolwork because he was so upset. And his dad actually had him repeat 10th grade rather than go to summer school and miss the baseball season. Mm-hmm. So when it came around that when he got to his senior year, his actual senior high school, he'd already used his 4 years of eligibility for baseball. So he played minor league ball and hit 626 for the season in minor league ball. And it turned out his uncle was a Red Scout. That was enough for them to sign him. And I mean, it worked out pretty well for all parties involved.
Yeah, he was, very lightly scouted.
Very.
Yeah. So the fact that he was able to do so much with not a God-given talent, but a God-given drive.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that the whole Charlie Hustle nickname, like it's supposed to be derogatory it's from Whitey Ford, right? He got walked in a preseason game, spring training game, and sprinted to first base. And Whitey Ford's like, "Yeah, there goes Charlie Hustle." He heard about it. He just freaking loved it because his whole personality. Like, you got to give everything. Just ask Ray Fosse.
Yeah.
1970 All-Star game. So, yeah, just the whole thing is interesting. Do you think he gets in now?
No.
Because there's a lifetime ban from baseball Hall of Fame.
Well, the Baseball Hall of Fame is separate. And Vinny, our friend Vinny Lospinuso, sent me something that basically the lifetime ban ends when you're dead.
Right.
So, I mean,
but Eddie Chacot and Shoeless Joe haven't sniffed it either.
Right, point. But Pete's got a better career, and Pete at this point, I mean, like you sent that the tweet to our group. I forget who did it, but what was it? Basically, it was.
No, I'll pull up so I don't do us any not any
yeah. So while you're looking for that, I mean, I think
So it's from Mike Beauvais. It says Major League Baseball is heartbroken to hear the passing of Pete Rose. Use code Pete Rose to get $1,000 first bet insurance for the 2024 MLB postseason. Bet MGM. Proudly serve as an official gambling partner of Major League Baseball. So
Yeah, I even I asked if that was real because it just seemed like something that
it was too on point. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like it totally could be.
but
Um,
like every game I'm watching, like in baseball, like with every sport for that matter, it's being presented by a FanDuel, I believe, like with Major League Baseball for that, and like it's feels so hypocritical to make so much and sort of get this revenue stream off gambling. And it'd be one thing if Pete bet against his team. He never did, which is maybe why he lost a lot.
mhm.
But it's I think he's got a better shot than the other two. But at the end of the day, baseball, as you and I both know, is has so many stoic individuals who are far too into it with their head up their ass in terms of not wanting to change with times.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of those people will be on those committees. I think he's got a better shot though than Clemens and Bonds did if he gets on a ballot. I think we'll
I
actually.
honestly think I can honestly see Bonds getting in my lifetime. I don't know about Clemens,
I don't see
but I
Bonds.
feel like what?
I don't see Bonds getting in. Not when they could. Not when Bonds and Clemens finish so low that they wouldn't give the amount.
Hmm. And I think some people are going to have to die in order for this to happen. But I fully expect Bonds to get in my lifetime as we have more and more evidence that people who have used steroids are going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Three that I'm sure of. Well, two I'm sure of.
Mhm.
One I'm not positive. I'm not. I'm not. Well, Piazza's the one I'm not sure, but Bagwell. Well, actually, no, no, four. Sorry, three I know for sure. One I'm not sure. Piazza is the one I'm not sure. Ortiz we know did.
Mhm.
That's without question.
Mhm.
Bagwell I'm positive because someone actually told me that behind the scenes.
Mhm.
And Canseco wrote about injecting Irod.
Yeah.
And Canseco seems to be brutally honest. That's why he's got no friends left in the baseball world.
Yep. Although I do want to point out, by the way, someone else who didn't have any friends in the baseball world, Sammy Sosa was welcomed back at Wrigley for the first time at the end of the season.
No shit, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, he came in and everybody like applauded and everything. So he wasn't out in the field or anything, but it was his first time back. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting though if they ever have a special committee on the steroids era and McGuire and Sosa and A-Rod and Manny Ramirez and Bonds and Clemens get a sort of different hearing. Because as I've said multiple times, Bud Selig is in, Joe Torre is in,
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Cox is in, Tony La Russa is in, right?
Right.
Those are the commissioner let it happen, and three managers who distinctly benefited from players on their who are using performance enhancing drugs,
Mm-hmm.
right? At some point, I expect Tito Francona will be in the Hall of Fame, right? At some point, I expect Theo Epstein will be in the Hall of Fame, right? Those are a manager and a general manager who benefited from having players who used performance enhancing drugs on their team. So, how we're going to let all this in and not the players is a going to be an anachronism, which in my opinion, is going to gain steam at some point. Because I mean, we're at the point now where Negro League statistics have been officially accepted as Major League statistics.
Right.
And can you imagine that 20 years ago? I
Mm-hmm.
just think we're going to get to a point where all that's going to happen. I think Rose gets in, by the way, and I don't think it's going to be that long, in my personal opinion.
Well, and I
We're
hope
just
you're
going to
right.
we're going to need a few more of the Joe Morgan types. I know Joe Morgan's no longer gone, and Morgan probably would have voted for Rose since they're teammates. But like
No, but
the Joe Morgan,
I don't think Morgan was the type though. He probably would not have. I don't think they had the best relationship.
well, maybe, but the Joe Morgan types who are moralizing absolutely everything are going to need to go away, and the younger generation has a more broadened view of it.
Yeah.
It's still the idea to me, not Rose, but like particularly the steroid people, that the
Mhm.
same people who ripped on the reporter who asked McGuire about the Andros just sitting on the top shelf of his locker, calling
Mhm.
invasion of privacy, are now the people who keep Mark McGuire out of the hall for all the stuff he did wrong. Like the hypocrisy runs deep in baseball. Um,
The amazing thing is, so when you were going through all those names, you and we both forgot because he's so forgettable, even though he's right up there.
Rafi
Rafael
Palmeiro.
Palmeiro, right?
Yeah. Rafi Palmeiro. Yeah. I honestly think Rafi Palmeiro's listen to me, I never did anything is going to keep him out of the hall forever. I think that's more there's more negativity to that than anything else anybody else did.
Hmm.
I also hope Ryan Braun never makes a ballot. I know
I
it's like
don't think you have to worry about that. I don't.
Pokey, the anthropomorphic piece of human excrement, Ryan Braun.
Uh, yeah, well, I can't disagree with that one. But
So
I guess that's pretty much it, huh?
yeah, I mean, we did have the Ford Frick finalists come out.
I kind
Uh,
of missed that. I still have to write about that, so I don't know that much about them.
yeah, so just quickly,
Yeah,
uh,
if you want to like rattle them off.
so Skip Carey, um, Rene Cardenas, Gary Cohen, Jacques Doucette, Tom Hamilton, the late Ernie Johnson Sr., Mike Krukow, Dwayne Kuiper, Dave Sims, and John Sterling are the 10 nominees.
Hmm.
Um, if
Few
we're up to me,
holdovers
just
from
with this,
last year.
well, I'm sorry.
Few holdovers from last year.
Yeah, quite a few holdovers. And last year was Joe Castiglione, who just retired this year for the Red Sox. By the way, that would have been my bad. The freaking Red Sox owners didn't even show up for Castiglione's last game after he'd been there with the franchise for 4 years.
Yeah, that's
You
pretty.
wonder why they're so hated in Boston. The good news is they're not bidding on the Celtics. At least we got that going for us.
Oh, okay.
But if, by the way, if I personally had to choose one of these off the top of my head, it's either Dwayne Kuiper or Skip Carey or Carey. Sorry,
I'd imagine the hardest one to get in would be Jacques Doucette because everything he did was in French. So kind of
possible. I
his.
mean, and Ernie Johnson Sr. has been dead for a long freaking time. So,
He
um,
hit the home run.
yeah. So yeah. So Skip with the Braves. I knew him from TBS back in the day.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So I mean, almost there's none of these guys. I'm like they just don't absolutely don't deserve here.
Mhm.
So I highly recommend any of them. But if we're up to me, I'd go with Skip Carey or Carey. I never know how to say his name, or Dwayne Kuiper. Kuiper mainly for his work on all of the MLB The Show games. He was a play-by-play guy, so I just kind of loved him more than anyone. So
Well, it's fair. That's fair in itself. So
yeah.
with that, I guess this brings it to a close. We'll again encourage you to go to www.theusahof.com, vote on coaches, contributors, players, and you can do that once a day.
Mm-hmm.
Power is all in your hands.
That is true.
And with that, wherever you are, wherever you may be, make it a great time. I will have a great time in Europe. Well, as good as I can. It'll be a little emotional for one day, but the Germany and Netherlands, and I found out that there's the Heineken Museum. Guess where I'm going to go?
You're going to Holland. Isn't that weird? Okay.
Yeah, though the one impression I can't do. Unfortunately, I have to see my wife's cousin's husband, who's a real toolbox. But anyway,
Okay.
yeah.
Hopefully not a viewer of the show. Anyway, man, have a good trip. Have a safe trip. And we'll have lots more videos up by the time you get back. The next 5 coming up, by the way, in case anyone's paying attention to this in some order. I know 3 from now is going to be Greg Maddux, but it's going to be Michelle Akers, Florence Griffith Joyner, Greg Maddux, who's our first time nominee, Dan Marino, and Richard Petty are the next 5 coming up for it.
Yeah, and look for that. Look for a bunch of other shows that we also do here. That's we're really, really proud of. Take care, everybody.
Peace.